Daf Pei Aleph Amud Aleph will begin Pei Amud Beis, the Mishnah at the bottom. So the Mishnah Bechol Arvim Mishtat. You can use any type of food to make Erev Chatzeres or shlit of Mevois. All kinds of food can be used. It does not have to be Davke Pas. Chutz min hamayim u'melech, except water and salt. The Erev is a place where your kind of shvisa is a place where you consider to be living there. It has to be food that nourishes. Water and salt is not in that category. Rabbi Lezer. That's what Rabbi Lezer says. Rabbi Shua says no. Kikir hu Erev. A Erev has to be even a Erev Chatzeres, even shlit of Mevois. It has to be dafka with bread. It has to be with a kikir. The second point that he's saying, afilu ma'afa saw. Now, even if it's huge, the loaf of bread is a huge. It's made out of a saw. But v'hu prusa, but it's not complete. It's not whole. It's a piece. Something's broken off of it. Ein ma'arvim ba. You cannot use it for the Erev. But kikir b'yiser, if it's whole, if nothing is missing, it's complete. Even if it's an iser, v'hu sholem ma'arvim ba. As long as it's complete, you can use it for an Erev. So even if it's so small, it's just the size of a coin, the silver coin, you can use it for an Erev. Rashi points out, though, that we do have a minimum shear. We have a minimum shear that it has to be a groigris, kol echad ve'echad. There has to be at least a groigris for each person that is mishtatef in it, or it has to be a mazen shtei sudas. So it has to be the lesser of mazen shtei sudas or a groigris kol echad ve'echad. Some of the Meforshim are bothered by, an iser is a silver coin. How can it be a groigris kol echad ve'echad? A silver coin, even on its own, looks smaller than a groigris. So they say that it must be referring to where it's very, very thick. It's maybe the size, the circumference of it is small, but it's very thick, so that it could have a groigris kol echad ve'echad. Zok the Gemara, Tanina chadasimna. Why is the Tana telling us this? B'chol ma'arv mishtafim. We already learned this. We learned this previously in the Mishnah. B'chol ma'arv mishtafim chutz min hamayim u'melech. It says we learned it previously on Daf Chof Vavam Beis. So why is the Tana telling us again? Amar Rabba says the reason why it's reiterated is lavukim Rav Yeshua. It's to show you, not like Rav Yeshua, to exclude the sheet of Rav Yeshua. The Amar kikarin midachrin eloi. Kamash Malan B'chol. So the Tana Kama, Rabbi Lezer, he wants to show us not like Rabbi Yeshua says that dafka has to be a kikar, and he says it can be used with other foods as well. Eisvei Abaya, Frekta Abaya Kasha. We learned in the Brisa, B'chol Ma'arvin Eruva Chatzeres. You can be Ma'arv Eruva Chatzeres with any type of food. And the shlit of Mevois can be used with all kinds of food. We only said that you have to use pas is in a chaser. But a shituf, you can use other types of food for shlit of Mevois. So here the Tana is saying that in Eruv Chatzeres you do have to use pas. Shlit of Mevois you don't, but Eruv Chatzeres you do. So man shamale the Amar Pasin Meida Achrin Eloi. Who was the one that said that for Eruv Chatzeres it has to be dafka pas, only pas, not other types of food? Rabbi Yeshua. Uktani bakol, and nevertheless it says bakol. It says that bakol ma'arvin. So it says over here bakol ma'arvin Eruv Chatzeres. Now he said, and yet it says that it has to be pas. So it uses a lotion of bakol, and yet it has to be pas. So therefore, bakol doesn't mean all types of food. So meaning, a way this brisa, so the presentation of this brisa is that Rabbi Yeshua holds that you have to have by Eruv Chatzeres dafke pas. By shlit of Mevois, it's not so necessary. We're more marked by Eruv Chatzeres that it has to be pas. Because Eruv Chatzeres, you have to have, therefore, the same amount. Everyone's contributing the same type of thing, not one more, not one less, so that there's not any machlekes b'davar. It has to be dafke pas. Shlit of Mevois doesn't. But it says b'chol. So what does b'chol mean? Elamai, we have now a different understanding of the Mishnah, the Machlokes in the Mishnah. Really, I'll tell you that the Rabbi Eliezer in the Mishnah, he also holds that you have to use for the Erev Chatzeres daf kapas. What he means to say is, why this is reiterated over here, is to teach you that he argues with Rabbi Yeshua that the Machlokes in the Mishnah is not can you use everything for Erev Chatzeres. B'chol ma'arvin is with all kinds of bread. B'chol ma'arvin, you can be ma'ar with all kinds of bread, and you can be mishtatev with all kinds of food, chutz min mayim u'melech. With the Erev Chatzeres, b'chol, all types of bread. Doesn't mean all types of food. It means all types of bread. And b'chol mishtatvim, you can make a sheet of mevuos with all types of food except mayim u'melech. And the machlokes is, does the bread have to be sholem or not? So Rabbi Eliezer says you can use all types of bread. It has to be bread, but it does not have to be sholem. And Rabbi Yeshua says it has to be sholem. So according to this understanding, Rabbi Eliezer also agrees that you cannot make Erev Chatzeres with all types of food. So it's la fukim in Rabbi Yeshua the Amr Shleima in Prusa loy kamash malan. The Rabbi Eliezer holds even with a Prusa, even though the bread is not sholem and there's a piece missing. Uprusa my time aloy. So why can you not use a Prusa? Amr Rabbi Yosef ben Shol Amar Rabbi. He says mishum eva, because it might cause bad will, ill will. Some residents complete a complete loaf, other residents don't. There might be machlokes. We want dafka to be sholem. Erev Chatzeres is to be matl sholem. So therefore, we make it uniform. And Rabbi Yeshua says everyone has to contribute something which is sholem. Is what about mahu? What about in the case where they're all ma'arab with prusas? So there's no discrepancy. So they're all using prusas which are incomplete. Is it valid? Amrlei, he said, no, we know because we're afraid that maybe it will, at some point, they'll use a whole pieces. Then if we allow them to use broken pieces, maybe when they're all mishtatev together, they'll rely on that. And even in a case where some are contributing whole pieces, and they'll also allow others to use broken pieces. And therefore, and that's the case, we're concerned about Eva. So therefore, we don't allow broken pieces. We don't allow the residents to contribute broken pieces. The Rosh brings down the Maram. He brings down the Maram Rottenberg, and it's brought down to Shulchan Aruch. However, this concern is only when we have multiple people contributing. Like in this case over here, we have different residents. Now we say even if all of them are contributing prusas, but we still ask because there might lead to a scenario where some are contributing whole pieces, some broken pieces. They'll say, well, we were allowed to use broken pieces in the past. They'll continue to use broken pieces, even though there is now a discrepancy between what some are contributing and others are contributing. But if there's only one contributor, if one is contributing on behalf of everybody, then we're not concerned. There's one sole contributor, and therefore he can contribute even a prusa. Amar Yechon ben Shol nitla himena kedei chaloso kedei dimua marvin leibo. He said, now even though we say that it has to be complete according to Rabbi Yeshua, but if a piece of it was removed in order to remove the challah, the piece that's taken, meaning if they didn't take the challah at the stage where it was dough, it was baked, and now they have to remove the shear of the challah. So since this is materit la'chayil, because you can't eat it without removing the challah first, this broken piece is considered acceptable. Similarly, in kidei dimua, if there was a mixture, truma fell into a mixture of chulin, so it can't be eaten. It can't be eaten by a non-kohen. So they have to remove, as long as the amount of the truma is not more than 1%, they remove the portion of the percentage, which is the truma percentage of it. They remove that percentage, and the rest of it is mutar ba'achila. Again, since over here the removal of it is what allows you to eat it, it's what's mutar la'achila, that broken piece is not considered a chasarn in the loaf, because in fact it's what's mutar la'achila, and therefore it's valid for the Erev. Frankly, more about Tanya, we learned in the Baraisa, Kite Kedei Demua, Marveloi Bo, but Kedei Halasa, ain't Marveloi Bo, but we learned in the Baraisa, that's only if the piece is Kedei Demua. But if the piece is the size of Kedei, it's Kedei Halasa, the amount that's needed to remove the Chala, you cannot use it for the Erev. It's considered to be missing, it's considered to be a Prusa, not a Sholem. More answers like kasha. It depends how large this shear is. How big is the piece that's broken off? Kedei chala. There's a difference in the requirement, the minimum requirement that the Rabbanan were mechayev for chala based on whether it's a baker, a professional baker, or whether it's just a person in his house, a housewife, or a balabais, a householder. Now, the shir midaraisa, there's no minimum shir. Any amount of challah would be valid. The chachamim were matal shir, and they said that for a person who is a balabayas, the shir is larger. It's 1/24. For a professional baker, since normally the challahs are larger, the proportion is less. It's only 1 out of 48. So therefore, if the piece that's missing is the larger piece, it's the chalas of the balabayas, which is 1/24, that's considered to be a chasaron. Therefore, we say in that case, it's considered to be a prusa, not a sholem, and you cannot use it for the Erev. If it's the smaller shear of challah, that which is only required for the professional baker, which is 1/48 is not considered to be a chasaron, and it's valid for the Erev. So that's how we're distinguishing. Like kash habachalas nachtum, where it's a professional baker habachalas balabais. This now, like we learned in the Mishnah, shir chala echad me'esrim v'arba. The shir of chala is 1 out of 24. That's the shir that you have to take for chala. Ha'isa isa la'atzma ve'isa lemishta benoi. So whether you make it for yourself or for your son's wedding, echan me'esrim v'arba. The shir is 1 out of 24. But nachtum sho'isa limka b'shuk. But if a baker who makes it to sell in the market, v'chein isha she'asa limka b'shuk, or a woman that she makes it for sale in the market, echad me'arboim u'shmoina. The shir is the smaller amount. It's the 1 out of the 48. So therefore, where it's missing only 1 out of 48, it's valid. But if it's 1 out of 24, then it's not. If you have pieces of the challah tafra bekisim, but you joined it together with splinters, so you inserted inside toothpicks or splinters and joined the pieces together, ma'ar v'loy bo, it's valid for the Erev. Frankly, more about Tanya, ain't ma'ar v'loy bo, that is not valid. More answers like kasha, ha de yediyah tifra, ha de loy yediyah tifra. Where you can see the joints, when the joints are noticeable, then it's not considered shalom, you can't use it. When the joints aren't noticeable, then it is kasha. Amarim zera mishmuel, ma'arvim bepas ha'erev zepas deich. If for an Erev, you can use the bread that's made out of rice bread, or pas deichen, or millet bread. Omar Marmukva, he said, if it's explained to me by Mar Shmuel, bepas oirez ma'arvin. If it's made out of rice, it's valid. Bepas deichen ain't ma'arvin, but not out of deichen. Omar Chibarav and Omar Rav, ma'arvin pasal dashim. He said, if you have bread made out of lentils, it's also valid, it's kosher. Frankly, Moraini, how could you say that? Well, he, the Havi Mishnei, the Mar Shmuel, a person living in the time of Mar Shmuel, he took bread made out of lentils, he threw it to a dog, and the dog wouldn't eat it. Now, if a dog wouldn't eat it, it's not royal achil at all. And therefore, how could you say you can use this for an Erev if it's something that even a dog wouldn't eat? How can it be valid for an Erev? More answers, that wasn't made exclusively from lentils. That was made of a combination of other things as well. It wasn't only out of lentils. Dirshu v'atakach lachit mesar mukpol v'adashim v'deichanuk samim. So the Rebbeinu Shalom said to Cheskel Hanavi, he was doing things to show a simon of Rahman al-Islam, the sorrows that would come about, the famine, the starvations, and Rahman al-Islam, the Khurban. So he was told to take for himself wheat, barley, beans, lentil, millet, and spell, to make bread and the combination of all these minim. So when we say over there that the dog didn't eat it, we see over here that when you make a combination of all these things, including lentil, but it was made all together, then it's inferior, then it's something that even a dog wouldn't eat, that you can't use for an Eruv. But if it's made exclusively out of Adashim, then it's kosher. So referring to that Maisa with the Cheskel Hanavi, Rav Papa Omar, Ahit Sli B'Tzoyas Adam Have, it was also roasted over the tzoy of an Adam. D'chsiv, V'ahi B'Gelilei Tzeyas Adam to Ugena Le'ineihem. And it says you should bake it with the tzoy of Adam in front of the eyes of the people. So what does it say that you eat the uga made out of barley, the loaf out of barley? Well, we're saying that it was mixed with all kinds of minim. Why does it call it barley? Amar of Chisda, read it not sa'irim barley, but rather lishi urim. It's made of measure, meaning even this inferior bread, it was in small measures. That shows the degree, the level of the poverty and the starvation that they had. Rapapa said, why does it say barley? It means arichasa ka'arichas saira v'loi ka'arichas chitim. Not that it was made out of barley, because as we said, it was made out of a mixture of other minim, but the shape of it was like barley bread, which didn't have an appealing appearance, not like wheat bread that's braided and looks nice. It was like a barley bread that did not have an appealing appearance. So it was made, this type of bread was made by other minim. So the quality was inferior. It was roasted on so you saw them, so it was disgusting, and also the appearance of it was ugly. That's the type of bread that Yecheskel baked to show to the people.